Find your mother. Protect them all.
We're saying that at the beginning of the flood, we're going to break open the ocean floor, the fountains of the great deep. So it's like the seam of a baseball. You know how you've got all the stitching on a baseball or cracks? We're going to have 70,000 miles of volcanoes suddenly exploding and molten material coming up that's going to raise the ocean floor. You're going to have the steam jets come out because of the release of fluids from inside the earth. Those steam jets are going to take some of the ocean water and take it up into the atmosphere where it's going to drop. And the Bible talks about the windows of heaven opening, and it was torrential rainfall for 40 days and 40 nights. So the picture, it does explain that imagery that's described in the Bible. But it does more than that, because one of the things that the conventional model doesn't come to grips with is that the fossils, many of the fossils are marine creatures, and they're found buried up on the continents. And so you've got to have a mechanism from taking creatures from the ocean floor and burying them up on the continents in rock layers. And the catastrophic plate tectonics model helps us to understand this, because you bring up this molten material, okay? Warm material is actually less dense because it expands. So if you have it happen rapidly, what's going to happen? You're going to produce all this new ocean floor very rapidly. It's going to be hot and warm, and it's going to take a while to cool, but it's going to expand. So if it expands, what's it going to do? It's going to push up the sea level, and it's going to carry that material up onto the continents. So immediately we have a mechanism for the rainfall, for surges of sedimentation where the sea level rises. It's going to go right across the continents and blanket the continents with these sedimentary rock layers. But then the fragments are going to start to move around as they're pushed aside by this new ocean floor. The old ocean floor is cold and dense, so it's going to start to sink into the mantle. And it's going to generate volcanic activity on the continents, but then you're going to get fragments that collide with one another. And so, for example, Africa and Europe collided with North America during the flood, and what did we get? We get buckled layers of fossil-bearing sedimentary rocks that we find in the Appalachian Mountains. And then the process changes again, and it opens up the Atlantic Ocean. Now we've got the Pacific Ocean floor going under North America as it goes westward, and we get volcanism out west, and big granites form in Yosemite and the Sierra Nevadas, and the Rocky Mountains get pushed up as a result of these collisions. And of course, the other thing is that, okay, once you get rid of the old ocean floor and you've got all this new warm ocean floor, it's going to start to cool. Initially, it expanded and raised sea level. It's going to start to cool, and when it starts to cool to form the new ocean basins, it's going to sink. So the water is going to slosh back off the continents back into the ocean basins, and as it does, what's it going to do? It's going to erode. We can see vast areas around the Grand Canyon that have been eroded off. Steve Austin talked about the Grand Staircase. It's a remnant of what was left of the rocks that weren't scoured away. So once the water comes off in the sheet erosion, as the flow decreases, it's going to move down towards more channelized flow. It's going to pick weaker points where it's going to erode in, and it's going to start to make the river valleys. So many of the canyons that we see on the Earth's surface and river valleys were carved out as a result of that receding waters phase of the flood, where the water was draining off. The sediments, of course, were washed out around the edges of the continents, why we have all the sediments today on the continental shelves, and we get oil and natural gas as a result in those sediments. And it's the same in the Grand Canyon as anywhere else.